Hi, and welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We have promised you, and we are keeping that promise, to continue to talk about what's going on in Grand Forks with the plan for the FuFeng corn processing plant that is primarily Chinese owned. A big concern is that the major stockholder did hold office in the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. And from what I understand, any big company is connected to the government. Like, of course, it's a communist country. And so the more research I do, the more dumbfounded I am. Like, why would anybody think this is a good idea? But that's just me. So
well, yeah, but if you're finding the research and the other people on the show are finding these issues in researching, why are the city officials not finding that? And why aren't they listening to it?
So you don't have to listen to us, but how about Chris Wray, the director of the FBI? Let's listen to him now.
Just using cyber means, Chinese government hackers have stolen more of our personal and corporate data than every other nation combined. The harm from the Chinese government's economic espionage isn't just that its companies pull ahead based on illegally gotten technology. While they pull ahead, they push our companies and workers behind. That harm, company failures, job losses, has been building for a decade to the crush that we feel today. It's harm felt across the country in a whole range of industries. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, a Chinese government-owned corporation called Sinovel stole the proprietary source code for controlling wind turbines from a U.S. company in Massachusetts, causing that U.S. company, American Semiconductor, to plummet from being a $1.6 billion company to a $200 million company, and from 900 employees to only 300 employees. That's 600 people who lost their livelihoods. And while those people were trying to figure out how to cope with catastrophe, Sinovel was adding insult to injury, using the source code they'd stolen to sell wind turbines right here in the United States. In 2015, the Chinese government publicly promised to stop handing hacked U.S. technology to Chinese companies. But their cyber theft program kept going strong. And in the years since, they've hit ever more companies and workers. We've seen small companies developing important medicines ransacked. We've seen big managed service providers remotely managing IT services for thousands of other businesses hacked, so the Chinese government could hijack their trusted connections with their customers and hack those companies too. Whatever makes an industry tick, they target. Source code from software companies, testing data and chemical designs from pharma firms, engineering designs from manufacturers, personal data from hospitals, credit bureaus, and banks. They've even sent people to sneak into agribusinesses' fields and dig up advanced seeds out of the ground. The common thread is that they steal the things companies can't afford to lose.
Christopher Wray was on 60 Minutes last week, and he said they open up a case on espionage related to China every 12 hours. They open up a new case on average.
It's just so, I mean, it's so disturbing because, I mean, a lot of this is happening from China, and they're doing this to the United States. I mean, you've heard of Chinese students, college students getting into colleges, getting into their labs and things like that, and changing things, getting into the computer systems and changing things. And then now we have this FuFeng that, I mean, let's just bring them in, set them in right by an Air Force base, and chalk it up to, oh, this is such great business. No, because the people that are letting this slide through, when are people going to stop accepting the monies? Because it all goes back to money.
It is money, because you know, why are there some people pushing so hard, not going through the proper protocols?
The people that are getting paid.
So when we had Mayor Brandon Bochetsky on, and we also had him on with Ross Kennedy, who is the founder of Fortis Analysis, kind of a, he's also working in the agribusiness world, so he understands national security, he understands the food chain, and I was in touch with him this morning on the next video we're going to watch, and he said that the people of Grand Forks claim they went through the proper protocol and that the Air Force was informed. But that's not what the Air Force is saying. Let's watch this.
This is at the Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. FuFeng, a Chinese company, is investing millions in a local corn mill there. Maybe it's just a corn mill, but it would also provide the potential, at least, for Chinese intelligence to engage in intelligence collection of various kinds, both signals collection or human collection. What's the Air Force plans to be sure that that is not happening, not just at this one site in Grand Forks, but at any of its bases around the country, if you can discuss that in an open setting?
I really can't discuss that to do details in a open session like this. I recently just became aware of this one in particular, but it's something we do pay attention to across the board.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Again, it's a concern about all our military and intelligence installations around the country. It's not just Grand Forks, but Senator Kramer and I have discussed this at length. I would feel exactly the same if some giant Chinese conglomerate started building a facility outside Little Rock Air Force Base as well. But I look forward to exploring that with you in a closed setting.
So he said he just recently heard of this, and this was May 3rd. May 3rd, just a couple days ago, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, he had questioned the General Charles Brown, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, at a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing. And so he just recently heard of it.
When did FuFeng, when did this
November, last November. And the thing is that we have these subnational exchanges, which I hope we can get into in the future more in depth, where instead of just the federal government, governments with governments, that they get these relationships on lower levels, local governments dealing with China. And, you know, they have these Confucius Institutes at colleges where you have a sister college with one of the universities in China. And we should not forget that around 10 years ago, it was exposed. We had 700 false, fake diplomas to Chinese students at Dickinson State University. And I don't think they ever really found exactly who was responsible for that. They fired a couple people. But I don't understand, like, why? Look what the FBI director is saying, Christopher Wray. I don't understand why we would be doing this in Grand Forks.
Well, it's interesting because I know that our governor has been labeled Chinese friendly by a major news syndicate in China. And I know that North Dakota has been labeled China friendly by the same news syndicate in China. That in and of itself should be alarming, especially around elections. But I think that there's something that we need to remember that needs to keep getting brought up is because I don't feel that people are taking it seriously because they're thinking, well, it's just an Air Force base in Grand Forks. Okay, it's not like it's Fort Knox. Well, I think people need to realize that in the next 2 years, this Air Force Base is getting a major overhaul to become an information hub for surveillance and intelligence. So it isn't just an Air Force Base in the middle of nowhere. It's becoming a hub for something that is very important to the national security. And then you all of a sudden have a wet corn plant going to be 13 miles from it when they have a history, documented history. This is not opinion, this is fact. A documented history of stealing intelligence from Americans, plain and simple, and period.
You have no reason to expect anything different. And Senator Kramer says they steal everything. This is just what they do. And if you want to keep in touch with what's going on in Grand Forks, they have set up a Facebook page called Concerned Citizens of FuFeng Project in Grand Forks. It's at the bottom of your screen there. And they put up, like, they'll post on city council meetings and what's going on.
A lot of good information on the page and a good place to voice your questions and opinions.